Let's talk about Greenland and Davos now. Things are moving forward in Greenland. President Trump says that he had reached the framework of a deal with NATO over Greenland's future, including U.S. obtaining sovereignty over land for military bases, of course. But how will this actually work in practice? Which EU leaders are fuming about all of this, or at least putting on airs publicly that they're fuming on it, but behind the scenes they're totally fine with it? And why is Russian President Vladimir Putin saying, hey, just go for it, basically? So there's a lot we still don't know. Steve Kuhet is a Bronze Star veteran, founder of Take America Back. And we wanted to have Steve on to talk about how this, how does this fit into America's foreign policy plans right now. Steve, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, there's a lot of details we still don't know about how this is unfolding. We know we have the framework according to multiple sources and multiple reporting on this, but what do you think this will actually look like in practice for the U.S. having sovereignty in Greenland?
Well, I don't know if you want to call it sovereignty, but we're going to have sort of the overhand to operate as we wish, apparently. But what I want to call out is that the uproar that they had at Davos about this, and all of the pressure and all of the, the posturing and everything, and all the tough talk, and how they were saying, Trump is threatening us and everything. And basically what he did is he forced them to put up or shut up. And I thought it was a pretty smart power move. But in the end, apparently, Denmark's going to have to keep paying Greenland the $600 million a year. So that's part of the deal as well. And we gain sovereignty over parts of it, but not all of it. And through that, we have access to the, I guess you could say the entire Arctic Circle from there. We have access to it, or I guess you could say we can reach it better. And apparently, they're working on the U.S. On the mineral exploration rights, which is a big deal, which most people said that was the reason we went in the first place. And then the big rule will be China and Russia aren't permitted to enter Greenland at all. So if he pulls this off, this is crazy. But obviously, we're going to be part of NATO still, and they're going to be in coordination with NATO and with the European nations that so much wanted to take control there, where they sent those 34 troops over to defend the island, where the Germans turned around after 11 hours and, skedaddled back to Germany.
Well, there was a surge.
Sorry, I had to laugh
100.
about that. As an ex-military man, I had to laugh about that. I think Norway sent one soldier.
Right. And so is this just performative? Like in a movie where you hear someone saying, no, you can't have it, but eventually, like, cut to the part where they capitulate. What's that look like? When's that going to happen?
Well, I've lived in Europe, in 8 European countries for about 37 years. Currently, I'm in Turkey, though. I'm very involved in German politics. I've been there since 2003. Started the Civil Alliance of Germany, which turned into the AfD.
Way to go, by the way. Applause. I said, way to go, and applause to you, by the way.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, we were surprised that it got moved so quick. But the point is this. Ever since, I'd say, Merkel left, and even at the end of Merkel in Germany, Europe's turned into a puppet show. And it's a circus. And you have leaders with no substance, no backbone, no credibility, no experience. And then you have the two that do have experience. They're criminals. Ursula von der Leyen, the head of Europe, she was under criminal investigation in Germany as she was a defense minister for corruption.
Yes.
And they have no substance, no credibility. And this is why they were shut out of the peace talks, because they show up, they just posture and talk. And it's the same thing they did in Davos. It's the same thing they're doing with Greenland. They made a big threat. They sent 34 troops. Now they're saying it was an exploratory mission, and it was planned months in advance, which no one heard of until now. So all of those plans were backdated probably. And it's just a typical European, hey, look at us, and we know how to talk well, but we have nothing behind us. And they're threatening now I made a post on Twitter and did like the cliff notes of the Davos meeting. And it's got like 130,000 views. It's just a post, it's even a video. And the Europeans are just freaking out. Americans leave, and all this kind of stuff. And you need to leave now, and we don't need you anymore, and all this kind of stuff. And the funny thing is, that's what Trump wanted. He forced Europe and NATO to arm up, to take responsibility, to take, sovereign action in their own land, because until recently, they weren't even at 2% of their GDP for defense. And now he forced them into that. So in a way, he was playing tough daddy, and he pushed them into, arming themselves. So now we can recede our support a little bit, save some more money for America, maybe invest it in Greenland, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting. And also the Russian side of this I find really fascinating. Vladimir Putin's side of this. In multiple speeches now over the past few days, he's just been like, so what? Do it. So what? Go for it.
Do that.
And he's like, oh, and by the way, and his little aside yesterday, I'm sure you saw it, was, hey, by the way, Denmark has treated Greenland horribly. And he called them, a colony. They've been incredibly harsh against the people of Greenland. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But I think a lot of us, were surprised maybe at Putin's response to this.
Well, I wasn't surprised because Putin and Trump, they've had quite a few meetings, and also with Witkoff. And I'm sure there's a deal going on there somehow. It's the same thing with Venezuela and, cutting off all the narco money. And then he was locking in Mexico and then boxing in Colombia. And then they had that remarked tanker down there. It's all, as we know with Trump, he's all about a big show and a big game. And what actually really happens is something that he really wanted. And I wasn't surprised at all when Putin did that. They're probably laughing behind the scenes right now. But when it comes to Denmark, it's true. They had forced sterilization years ago in Greenland through Denmark, and Denmark has treated them like a colony and just didn't treat the people very well. And there's conflicting reports. 75% of people don't want to Donald Trump, but what I've heard and what I've seen in my intel buddies, and what I've seen, on the island, I guess you could call it a continent, so damn big, is that they're all pro, like bring it on. And apparently each Greenlander is going to get $100,000. There'll be massive investment. Look, when I was stationed in Germany, they kept saying, once the wall went down, they said, Americans get out, Americans get out. We got out. Most of those cities where all of the bases were are now bankrupt, broke. Every shop is closed. Every restaurant is closed. There's no GIs running around, thousands of GIs. I think we have 57 or 87,000 troops still in Europe, which people forget. That's part of NATO. Like, we're still gluing Europe together, even though they're, pounding on their chest that they can stand alone. They don't need America anymore. Which, by the way, who was that? That was the president of Finland said on stage, Europe can defend itself. We don't need America. And then when she asked him again on the same stage in the same interview, he said, I didn't say that. I never said that.
Right.
If I did, I didn't mean it.
Yeah. Europe can defend itself. Okay.
Right. I want to ask about the people of Greenland and what this would look like, because it seems like the framework of a deal means full rights of exploration and utility and rare earth minerals. But if we don't actually have Greenland, would they still pay taxes to Denmark while the Americans, take their resources? That is not a good deal for the people who live there. They pay upwards of 40%. They're taxed like Europeans. So, this is not a good deal for those people. What do you think of this?
Well, I don't know if it's just if you're talking about employees or you're talking about the business owners, that's two different things, of course, because business owners have loopholes.
Yes.
But employees, I think, just look at it this way. I don't know who's going to pay taxes to where, but I can tell you this: there's going to be a massive amount of jobs, right? The economy is going to have a massive upswing if there's a lot of troops or even employees, or they have to ship people in to do all the mining and everything. You're going to be creating new towns and whole new villages there that are going to just upswing to the economy. So it might even itself out.
But you and I, we've lived in Europe. Taxes are horrible.
I know.
And Europe is like a financial cartel. They will come after you and find, and what do you get back for it, right? And what rights do you have? It's not a happy situation. So, a lot of people are talking about how, well, their taxes would be lower overall if they were Americans, but they wouldn't get free health care. But so, this is something to consider. Do you want to still have the bad part of being European, which is the taxation, and get no resources back for it?
Well, if you're an average citizen that has a job, goes 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, Europe's not bad. For me, I was always an entrepreneur. I always had businesses. I couldn't stand paying 3,500 euros a month. Sorry, 3,500 euros a month from a paycheck for my health insurance. Just didn't make any sense to me. 55% taxes, all included in Germany. And that's before you start paying VAT, which is 19% in Germany. But they do have, if you're an employee, you have, unemployment money, you have healthcare, you have all this kind of stuff. So it isn't that bad. But then you have the other side of the coin, and that is how long can that last? Because now with the crazy immigration, and you have, unfortunately in Germany, you have the law that was passed that if you're Muslim and you have more than one wife, they can all go on Social Security or unemployment or welfare. And so you have, some people having 10 people in their family all collecting welfare, and it's breaking the system. So there's a lot of pros and cons there. I just got to say this: in Europe, in the end, when you're done paying all the taxes and all the solidarity tax, and they're still paying solidarity tax for East Germany when the wall came down, they're still paying for that. Every Westerner, you might have 14% of your money left over. Can you imagine?
Jeez. Yes, I can, because we've lived in there. It's really tough. It's so sad for the working people. It's a gut wrencher.
Well, but the thing is this: there's a lot of people that still believe the globalists rule. So they still believe von der Leyen, they still believe Merz, they still believe Macron, and they're fighting like tooth and nail on X, like Europe's better and we're going to be, we don't need you and all this kind of stuff. It's a shame that we can't see that the normal people cannot see how these puppets in Europe are completely ruining their nations and gutting them economically, as well as the energy. That's a whole nother story, but we can talk about some other time.
I mean, Germany's in dire straits right now, and most of Europe in that way as well. Steve, great to have you here. Thank you. I know it's like after midnight there in Turkey right now, so I think it is like 12:30 in the morning. So thank you so much for staying up late with us there in Turkey and sharing your thoughts on all of this. We really appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. Looking forward to coming back.
Oh, we'd love to have you.
Bedtime, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mom says go to bed.
Get to bed. You've been warned, Steve.
I have 3 kids. I can't help myself. I apologize.